Today is November 10th, 2024, and welcome to the 414th episode of the Videogames podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of this show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello! Thank you specifically for joining me today. As usual, going to kick things off with housekeeping, where I talk about tidbits, news items, industry happenings, basically anything randomly game adjacent that's caught my eye in the last 7 days. But before I get to that, just a quick word. So, the election, that was a thing that happened. Definitely have some thoughts. Don't worry, I'm not going to get all super political right now, at least. If you want to talk to me about that, there's a bit of a discussion going on in the Discord. You can hit me up, email me, or anything like that. But I do want to just quickly mention that it's kind of weird, right? Like, where do we go from here? If you know me, you know I'm pretty left-leaning and open and, you know, pro stuff, pro LGBTQIA, pro Black Lives Matter, pro that kind of stuff. So I did have a brief discussion with a couple of people, and a few of them were content creators. I hate using that phrase, right? Content creators makes it sound so weird and commercial and mechanical, but basically we were kind of talking behind the scenes, and we have things to say. We have feelings. We're human beings, and I think anybody who's listened to even more than one episode of the show will know that I'm probably not happy with what went down, and I'm, pretty concerned about the future of the United States of America, my family, my community, democracy, etc., etc. But we're not going to get too much into that right now. The reason I bring this up is that as we were talking about this, we mentioned that myself and the other content creators I was talking to feel, I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but basically, like, we know for a fact that people tune into our shows, they watch our channels, our videos, come to our websites because, yeah, it's cool and it's fun and all that, but sometimes the world gets to be a little bit much and we need just a minute to get away from whatever harsh reality we're facing that day. And that has value, right? Like, we can't be in panic mode 24/7. We can't be in anger mode 24/7. Sometimes you need to just unplug for like a second, right? And so as we were talking about this, I mean, it did kind of come around to the thought that, we need to keep doing what we're doing here on this show, at the website, on these various channels that my friends are in charge of, and so forth and so on. Because, I mean, I don't want to sound like pretentious or anything, but like, sometimes people count on us to get away from stuff. If they're having a hard day, they want to distract themselves, they just need a minute to breathe. You can listen to this podcast. You can come to Game Critics. You can listen to any of the other shows, from the people that I'm friends with, any of the YouTube videos and so forth and so on. So I just want to kind of say that I'm going to keep making the show. There was never a plan to stop the show, but I know that, things are different now. And things are going to be really different in 2025. So we don't exactly know what's in the future. Definitely a little concerned. But this show will continue. And it's going to basically continue exactly how it has been. I'm not going to turn it into, a political rage fire. Because I might be feeling that on the inside. I might. But that's not what the show is for. And I just want to briefly acknowledge that entertainment, detaching, relaxation, a moment of zen, like all that stuff has value. So if you tune into a random episode of the show and you just hear me talking about games as usual, don't think that I'm putting my head in the sand, and don't think that I'm ignoring the world, or that I don't care, or that I'm fine with things. I do. I care about all that stuff. I'm thinking about it 24/7. I have a lot of things to say about it. But this show is not the place for that. And I want to just let people know that if you come to the show as your escape, you can still come to this show as your escape. You can still be here. I'll still be cracking bad jokes. I'll be talking about random games you've never heard of. I'll be putting it out week to week, just like I have been. And that's going to still be here for you, because that's something that I can do. I can do that. That's a tangible thing. That's a real thing. And if that helps anybody in the world, even for 15 minutes or an hour or whatever, if that brings some level of positivity to the world, then that's what I'm going to do. So don't think that I'm just, I'm pulling the ostrich routine, my head's in the sand, I'm ignoring things. I'm not. But I do think that there is a place for things that help people in other ways. And if you do want to talk about the other stuff, that's totally fine. I'm always up for that. Hit me up on social media, especially the Discord. If you really want to talk about things, Discord is a great place for that. Or you can email me as always. But just know the show's going to continue. It's not going to be radically changed. And if that's what you're here for, then great, rest assured. And if you're wondering why Brad keeps talking about games when there's so much going on in the world and how can he just keep playing games when this stuff is happening, well, that's why. I'm doing both at the same time. And hopefully if I can just bring that moment of peace or zen to somebody, then that's what I'm going to do. For now, anyway. So no plans to stop the show. It's going to continue, and that's what's up. So that's just a little peek into, the making of the show and what I'm thinking behind the show. So there you go. All right, folks, going to get back down to business here. This is where I usually talk about housekeeping, and, God's honest truth, I don't have a lot of housekeeping right now. I think probably a lot of people in the industry have been kind of holding their breath because of the election, and I think we're all kind of just putting things on pause and going slow and collecting ourselves and so forth and so on. So maybe it's just me, but I haven't really seen a lot of newsworthy items lately, except for just one little bit. I brought this up on the show a while ago, probably like last year. And I just wanted to give a heads up that a new game just dropped on Steam. It's called Hard Coded. This game comes to us from developer Ghost Hug Games. They are also the publisher. It just dropped on Steam and on itch a couple days ago. Full disclosure, I did contribute to the development of this game. I have been a member of the Patreon, so not totally neutral when I'm bringing this to your attention, but also I don't profit from anything. I have zero financial investment. I don't even know these developers, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. It seems like a very cool sci-fi kind of dystopian, I don't know, like body issue, trans issue, adult-oriented graphic novel / sci-fi / sex game. Definitely it is 100% adults only. It is sexual in nature. So just heads up on that. We do review those games from time to time here on the show when I find a good one. This one seems like a good one so far, where there's a blend of spicy, but also some interesting writing and some interesting social themes going on. I just barely scratched the surface of it, but I just wanted to quickly say that it's out, and that's why I'm bringing it up here in housekeeping rather than in the actual show proper. Just know that it's out. Check it out if you swing that way, if you're into adult games or trans games or sci-fi games, visual novels, anything, any of those Venn diagrams overlapping for you, check it out. This is Ghost Hug's first game, and I was following along with their updates, and I know how much work they put into it. So congratulations to Ghost Hug Games for getting their first game out there. Love the art. The music is absolutely great. Haven't played much, but what I've seen of the writing so far seems really solid, and I like the pace of what I've seen so far. So maybe more to come on this one, but just a heads up, if you are an adult gamer who doesn't mind a little sexy time in your game, you like various social issues, trans issues, stuff like that, this might be something for you. So check that out. Hard Coded is now out on Steam and on itch. All right, before we get to the main portion of the show, just a heads up, there is a Videogames Discord. I mentioned that a second ago. You are welcome to jump in and continue the conversation on any topic you like. Every listener is welcome to join free of charge. If you want to hop in, just shoot me an email and I will send you all the details and the contact information to do that. It's coming up at the end of the show here. Let's see. I usually kick off the main portion of the show with circlebacks. And to be perfectly frank, I just haven't circled back to anything. I'm playing a lot of stuff right now. I'm still in the middle of Kunitsugami. I'm still playing Kong Survival Instinct. I'm still playing Shogun Showdown. I feel like there's probably one other thing that I'm forgetting. I went back to Helldivers after all the 1,000 patches that they put in and all the buffs. So I'm splitting my time pretty thinly these days. I haven't really made much progress in anything. Not enough progress to even officially circle back, I guess. And also besides that, it's been quite busy. I mean, the election stuff, talking to friends, getting together and discussing things, spending time with the wife and family, et cetera, et cetera. It's been a pretty busy week. And I'm also kind of putting the final touches on a presentation for a pretty big project. If you've heard the last couple episodes, you might have remembered that I've been working on a pretty large project. It's all NDA'd right now, so I can't talk about it. But it's not 100% a go yet. We had to NDA just to even talk about it. So hopefully I can sign the contract and we get moving forward on this. And if I do, then I'll be happy to share. But that was taking up a pretty large amount of my time as well. Hopefully I can share some info on that pretty soon. But nothing to circle back on this week. I'm sorry. I guess just know that I'm still playing all those games that I listed. They're all really good. And there's just so much this year that I really want to spend time with, that I really want to finish. But just, man, finding the raw time has just been a real challenge right now. And I know. First world problems. Oh, it's so tough to be a game reviewer, blah, blah. I get it. I'm not trying to like humble brag or anything, but yeah, I just haven't really had time to finish things off. And that would be on top of the stuff that I got to play for the show this week, which is, I guess, what I should just get into right now, eh? All right, let's not waste any more time. First up on today's episode 414, playing SlavicPunk Oldtimer. This comes to us from Red Square Games, and it is published by Gaming Factory. This is a top-down isometric shooter. Sort of like a twin-stick shooter. It kind of is, but I don't think it handles as quickly as that. I don't want to mislead you. You're walking around with the left stick, isometric viewpoint pointed down. You're aiming with the right stick, but it's not like a twitch shooter. It's more of like a slower action game. I don't want to call it an RPG because it's not, but it's like a slower action game. It's not like, Hotline Miami or anything like really twitchy like that. It's just you're walking around these dystopian kind of cyberpunk environments. It's in the future. Lots of trash all over the place. Cyborgs. Lots of neon signs in the shape of boobs. Lots of women dancing in their holograms. Any of the usual sci-fi, cyberpunk-ish trappings are here. So if you like that vibe, that's a big plus right off the bat. This is definitely a lower budget title. It's a little rough around the edges, but I think that's okay. You're this detective, and I believe they call him just the Oldtimer. In the cutscenes, he looks like, he must be 50, 55, 60, something like that. And he's a detective or something like that. And you start off the game where you are being hired to find some data, but then you actually know the person who's involved with the data, so then you want to find the person, and your handler's like, no, just the data, and you're like, no, I want to find the person, and then you kind of start off the mission. Now, I will say, the story is probably the weakest part of the experience. It seems like all the elements are here for a good, gritty, sort of down in the streets and dirty cyberpunk kind of tale. But the writing is just not great. I don't know if it's a translation issue, because I'm pretty sure this game comes to us from Eastern Europe. It's got that vibe to it, that like really nihilistic, kind of dark, cynical vibe that a lot of Eastern European games have. If you've played those, you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty unmistakable. I'd bet pretty much any amount of money that this game comes to us from that part of the world, which is great because I do enjoy those. But I think that perhaps the writing didn't come across. Things are not quite fully explained, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing as to what's going on. And then when new characters pop up, I sometimes feel like the introductions or the transitions between those parts are not that great. And so pretty soon after starting this game, I kind of was like, not really going to pay too much attention to the script, because it's just not holding my attention. It's not gelling together well, which is a shame, because I think there's the seeds of something really good there. It just needs a little bit more work in the script department. So you go into these levels, and basically you're like in these giant blocks of like building apartment blocks. There's locked doors, which you find the keys to. You walk around. You can stealth a little bit, some rudimentary stealth. You can duck, hide behind items. You have a speed run, like a cyber enhanced speed run. You have a dodge roll. You can switch between a couple of guns, and you also have a cyber attack. You click the right stick. I'm playing on PlayStation. You click the right stick, and then you send out a little like sonar ping around you. And if you select any of the enemies who have cybernetics in them, you can choose to slow them down or freeze them, or you can do some like damage. But it's all pretty straightforward and basic. Every once in a while you find a locked door. You'll do a mini game for the lock. Sometimes you're hacking a computer. You'll do a really basic hacking mini game. It's all pretty straightforward, but that's not to say that it's bad. I mean, I think it delivers exactly what it looks like. If you watch a trailer, for this game of seeing the Oldtimer walking around, shooting guys, kind of dodging. I mean, that's basically what it is. And that's most of the experience once you get started. You're shooting guys, dodging, using your powers, and kind of just like moving forward in these gross kind of like hyper urban environments. I wish the story was better. I will also say I wish there was a little bit more RPG to it. There's not really any RPG to it so far. There's a couple characters which seem to have potential, and I was kind of hoping you would get like narrative decisions, even something as simple as like maybe choosing from maybe 2 or 3 options just to kind of guide the discussions. But as far as I've seen, and full disclosure, I didn't finish this game. Oh, and also before I forget, full disclosure, I got a code for this and every other game I'm talking about on the show. I did not pay for any of these games myself. They were provided free of charge. So as per the FCC regulations, just heads up that I did get everything I'm talking about today for free. So there you go. So I was hoping there would be narrative choices, choose a mission, something like that. But no, it's pretty straightforward as far as I saw anyway. And as far as your loadout goes, it doesn't seem like you can really get into the nuts and bolts. Like you're not like tweaking your build. You're not tweaking your cybernetics. You're not installing, mods or apps or anything into your brain or whatever. It's pretty straightforward action game in cyberpunk trappings, which I think is okay. I think it does what it does. It works well. I had fun with it for the day that I was playing it. But the script is weak, and I kind of wanted a little bit more from it. I wanted a little bit more depth in your stats, in the story, in, any potential RPG elements, but it just wasn't quite there, which is okay. But just know that going into it. I think probably these days, when you hear the term cyberpunk applied to anything, I think we just sort of assume that we're going to be doing biohacking and, installing blades in our arms and rockets in our foreheads and et cetera, et cetera. So just know that that's not really this game. But this is kind of a gritty, sort of an action-y, top-down, cyberpunk, Eastern European flavored sort of a thing. And if that's what you're in the mood for, I think you could have a really good afternoon playing this. Just have your expectations set appropriately. And I don't think that you will not be disappointed, basically. So SlavicPunk, Oldtimer, coming to us from Red Square Games and Gaming Factory. There you go. All right, next up is Empire of the Ants, which comes to us from Jordan Freeman and Microids, published by Microids. This is a pretty interesting little thing. Apparently, it's based on a series of books. I've never heard of these books. The Empire of the Ants series. I mean, what is a book even? I haven't read a book since I don't even know when. But this is a photorealistic game featuring ants, as it says right there in the title, spoiler. And you play one particular ant, and I want to say their name is like 103,865 or something like that. Like your name is a number because there are so many ants that you just can't all have names, but you each have a little designation number. And you start the game with your ant nest, waking up from winter slumber. Springtime is here, and so you're rousing, and you're going to go out in the world and start getting your ant kingdom back on its feet. It's a pretty impressive looking game just from graphics, just from the presentation. When you're watching the opening cutscene, like it actually looks like one of those documentaries you might watch on Channel 9, PBS or whatever, where someone's got like a super zoom lens and they're really, really close to these ants, so close you can see all the hairs on their heads and their teeth and the claws and stuff, and you're just super close, and they're kind of like rambling all over, climbing up twigs and going through grass and stuff. It looks exactly like that. Like they did a great job. It looks very much like real ants that are very, very close up. So cool presentation. The very first level is you kind of walking around, and you move just like an ant does. Well, a little bit. I'll get to that in a second. But you crawl, all the legs move. You animate like really beautifully. You're crawling over bark and pebbles and dirt and whatever. And it's just really interesting because just like a real ant, you can crawl over basically anything. It was pretty funny when I started the game and I saw a little twig sticking up in the ground, a little plant or something. And I go, I wonder. And I just angle my ant over there, and it totally climbed right up it, no problem, just like in real life. Climbs up vertical surfaces, climbs upside down. If you're like on a leaf and you're on the top side of the leaf, no problem. You walk around the edge and you like shoop, you go under the leaf, no problem. You can just walk over literally anything, just like an actual ant. So that's kind of cool. Now, I am not an ant expert, and in fact, I'm going to Google this right now. Through the magic of podcasting, I'm going to Google this right now. Hang on one second. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. that was just a moment for you. It was a couple minutes for me. So I wanted to find out whether ants can jump, because in this game, your ant can jump. He's got hella hops, or excuse me, she has hella hops. And that's a big part of the game. It's kind of like jumping from thing to thing. So according to Google, and I did not read the fucking AI results, but I read like the listings down below. Some ants actually can jump, but it's pretty rare. Most ants do not jump. I think it said something like out of the 300 different main types of ants, very like maybe like I don't know 5 or 10 jump out of 300. So it's not very many. But in this game, you can jump like fucking crazy. You charge up your jump. You got like good vert, good distance, and you're often going to be jumping from like leaf to leaf, or jumping over water from a rock onto a lily pad or something like that. So you jump quite a bit. I'm not going to say it's platforming, because it's not like you're running and jumping. It's not like Sonic the Hedgehog but with ants. It's just like, you're walking around and you got to the edge of a hill and you need to get over someplace and you think, well, maybe I can jump. I'm going to just give this a try. And then you jump. It's like, it's pretty premeditated. Like, it's pretty deliberate. You're not just like willy-nilly jumping all over the place. So there's that. And also, true to form, there's no fall damage, because ants, I don't know if you know this, but ants, they can basically fall from fucking like anywhere and they're fine. They weigh so little that they don't really get that like critical mass going that will turn a human into like a pizza, street pizza specifically. So you can drop ants from pretty high up and they land and they're like totally fine. So that happens here as well. You can fall from a tree, a log, or whatever. You fall down and it's no big deal. You get back up. You're not even phased. So that's the first part of this game, is you're kind of wandering, getting from place to place. You're exploring the territory. You will get these little missions from the ants back home, and they'll say, oh, hey, we found some kind of object that's weird. We need you to go check it out. And then they'll give you like a marker on your map. And then you go out into this very, very small, small as in microscopic, but it's kind of an open world, but you're not going all over the place. You don't have like a whole city block or anything. It's just like just a big size level you're rambling around in. You go to the marker, you find the thing, and when you find the thing, it'll have like these little dots on it, these little scent dots, and you need to go and sniff those things, because ants have a very good sense of smell, and then you report back what it is. So that's pretty straightforward. You're finding routes, you're jumping from place to place, you're looking around, ambling around. It's pretty cool. It looks as though you're watching a documentary, which is neat. The other part of the game, which I discovered, is there's also like a real-time strategy element. And I think this part is cool, although I don't know it works quite as well as the walking around part. So the developers have gone to great pains to kind of like take the menus that are necessary for a real-time strategy and kind of incorporate them into the world and into the environment. So for example, the nests that you will protect, like if you're in this battlefield, it's not just like a giant big nest. I mean, it's like an icon, but it's basically a hole in the ground, just like an ant nest looks. And then when you go to these bases, you can like level them up. You can erect defenses, put little sticks around your base. You can have little shooting ants, which shoot poison out of their abdomens. You can have guards guarding the entrance. When you go into the base, a little radial menu appears on the ground outside of this hole in the ground. So it's almost kind of like you're looking down a little bit. But to be clear, this is not an isometric perspective game. It's third person for sure, and behind the back and above, and you have a couple different magnifications to go through. But this is not a top-down game, especially during the RTS portions here, and that'll become really important in just a minute. So you go to the base, you want to erect your defenses, you click on the button, and then these menus appear on the ground in this colored ring that appears. You got to like move your ant around inside the colored ring to select the thing that you want. Now, conceptually, that's great. I think that's super cool and neat. It's a different way of approaching this. And I think they also took pains as well to make it easy to move your troops around. So when you're on this battlefield, let's say that you're fighting the termites. Those are the first enemies you fight. Termites, they suck. No one likes them. So they start encroaching on your territory. You need to take action and defend yourself. So what do? You have workers, you have soldiers, and you have gunners, which shoot the abdomen poison. And it's like a whole like rock, paper, scissors thing. Like the gunners can kill the soldiers kill the workers kill the gunners. It's the circle of life. You get it. So when you're an ant and you are in these areas, you are still the one ant, and you are commanding your troops by looking around, and it's all seen from the ant's perspective. So you're just a little bit behind your ant and you're kind of looking up. You're on the ground. It's definitely to your benefit to find some high ground so you can get a better view of the area. And if you do, you can see these giant icons where the termites are coming in, and then you can see the icons where your troops are, and they're all color coded. They're very well constructed. It's easy to see what's happening in terms of where your troops are and stuff. And then you just click them out. Like you click the soldier icon. Hey, soldiers, I need you to go over here. You click that. You click on the termite icon where you want them to go, and then they go. It's pretty straightforward. So I think it works really well. They've done a lot of work clearly on working on UI, working on menus to make sure that RTS gameplay, which is traditionally quite hard to pull off on a console, works well. And I think they almost got it. They came so close. It does work well, but the problem I have with the RTS sections is that most RTS games show you like the God's Eye view for a reason. You need to see what's going on. You need to see where people are coming in. You need some situational awareness. You need to really take in the battlefield. And they are lacking that here. As I was playing the RTS sections, I was constantly wishing I had the ability to just zoom far out and just see the whole battlefield at once. I get that you're an ant and you're kind of commanding things yourself and you're in the thick of it, and that all makes sense, but just from a gameplay perspective, it was a little bit frustrating. You know, maybe they could have, I don't know, like done something diegetic. They could have had like a dragonfly comes down and picks you up because you're friends, and that dragonfly holds you over the battlefield, so you've got a really good viewpoint. Or I don't know. That was really my main problem, was like it was kind of hard to see where things were because you were so low to the ground that if there wasn't a big rock or a log to get on top of, it was just kind of hard to see things in general, and I often kind of struggled to know what was happening. So I think that's really my main issue with that. It's not a huge issue, but it is kind of a bummer because I just felt like those sections should be a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more free-flowing, and it seems like they've gone to such lengths to work on the UI, to work on their icons, to work on the systems and make them streamlined, and it's all great. I just wish the viewpoint was different. And I know that maybe that would break the fiction of the game or something like that. But just honestly, that's why RTS games are like that. That's how they work the best. And so I think that would help here a little bit. But that said, I do think this is a pretty interesting game. You do RTS, then you go back to like a walk around level, talk to some ants, then you go back to an RTS level. It goes back and forth like that for a while. I didn't get super far into it, but that's kind of the gist. And I really liked it. I like the music is really calm and chill, and the graphics are super beautiful. And if you're not weirded out by bugs, you don't have a bug thing, and you're fine being an ant. I think it's really something different. It's interesting, and I think it's not the kind of thing we get every day, and they're trying many different things. And I just, I'm kind of a bug guy in general, and I think it's pretty cool. So check that out if you want a nature documentary that you can play with a little bit of RTS sprinkled in there. Empire of the Ants, coming to us from Jordan Freeman and Microids. Next up is Kill Knight, which comes to us from Playside Studios. This is a top-down isometric score chase, fast action, reflex. I'm not going to call it a bullet hell, but it has the pace of a bullet hell. Shoot 'em up / sort 'em up kind of a game. Where you play a knight who has been dispatched into hell itself to clean things up down there. And this game is kind of different than I thought it was. It was different than I expected after watching the trailers, but I will say it's pretty badass. First, I will say the presentation's fucking hardcore, man. Like the opening cutscene is just melted my fucking face off. It was just like harsh, and the lights and the flashing, and you're walking into the gates of hell, and you're like falling down the pit, and it's just like, god damn, this is metal AF, dude. Like it goes hard, it lands hard, it is hard. Like it's extremely impressive. And after I watched the opening cutscene, I'm like, holy shit, I'm in for it now. God damn, like I feel like I actually went to hell. It was pretty intense. So kudos, that opening cutscene is something else, man. So maybe check that out on YouTube if you don't end up getting the game. But I thought, honestly, this was going to be a little bit different. I thought there'd be some RPG elements to it. I thought there'd be, I don't know, like an overhead Baldur's Gate kind of like semi-RPG kind of thing to it. And I was a little bit surprised to find that it's just, I don't mean just, I take that back. I don't mean just, don't mean to demean the game like that, but it's a score chase game, which I absolutely didn't realize. So you're the knight, and the tutorials are pretty detailed. You've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of systems here. You've got like a sword, and then you can charge the sword to do a screen clear. You can parry with the sword. You've got a gun, and then you've got an active reload that can power up your gun for a little while. You've got a dodge. Then you have, you can shoot guys, and when they drop gems, you can absorb the gems to increase your base power. But if you hit R1 to absorb them a second way, that goes into your, I don't know, like purple special meter power. And then that can be used to strip armor off of armored enemies. And it also generates healing crystals. So there's no healing in the game unless you use your special charge up B power and unleash that, and then enemies drop healing crystals. And so you've got that going on. And then there's also like a combo meter. And there's just like, it's extremely technical. I'll just say that to kind of sum it up. Lots of systems, a lot of finger gymnastics going on, and it's very, very technical. This is a technical experience where you must know how the guns work, how the reload works, how much you're charging up, what your energy levels are at, what your combo is at. Like, it's all, there's like 19 things going on at once in this game. It's not just reflexes, but it also is reflexes, because enemies come at you fast and fucking furious in this game. They just like threaten to overwhelm you. Luckily, your dash makes you invincible for just a second or two. So you're dashing around, you're shooting, you are powering up your gun when you do the active reload. And then you're also like absorbing gems one way and getting stronger, absorbing gems the other way. You're dashing around, and then a guy with a shield comes up or armor comes up. And then you've got to absorb the gems the other way and hit him with your special armor stripping beam. And then he'll generate some life crystals. And it's just, man, this game's like a lot, dude. It is a lot. You are busy. You are thinking constantly. You're like moment to moment, like second to second, half second to half second strategizing. And it's just, the pace is just fucking intense. I haven't played something as pressured as this for quite some time. But I will say, it's all airtight. It is 100% on point. If you are up for an experience like this, I think it's absolutely top tier. Like, the developers have dialed in the controls seamless. Like, they are perfect and seamless. They're responsive. The controls do exactly what they need to do once you get to come to grips with them. The movement moves just like it feels like it needs to. The shooting feels like it needs to. The sword feels like it needs to. It just is absolutely airtight. Like, it's polished, it's perfected. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were after. They went after it and they fucking nailed it. Like, it is all here. So whenever you die, you know why you die. Like, it's you didn't measure up, or you just didn't pull off the move or whatever. It never feels unfair. It never feels like you got cheated. Like, and that's something that's very worth going after when developing a game like this. So I think this game, it is not a Souls-like in any way, shape, or form. It is not. But I will say that one thing it has in common with Souls-likes is that in that kind of experience, when the controls are so dialed in, when the physics are absolutely proper, the challenge can get pretty difficult. And if the game feels like it's holding up its end of the bargain, that is something that frequently triggers players to rise to the occasion. And I think that was no different for me. If the controls had been anywhere less perfect than they are, I would have kicked this thing to the curb immediately. But they're not. They're absolutely perfect. The developers nailed it. And so it did feel like a legitimate challenge, like a fair challenge. Am I fast enough? Are my reflexes fast enough? Can I master the systems? Can I juggle back and forth between the different attacks fast enough? Can I do it? Answer in large part is no. But I did have a really great time doing it. I found myself really addicted to going back and trying again. Now, I'm not much of a score chaser in general. That's just me. I never have been, probably never will be. But just the thought of like trying to get further, trying to do better, trying to master the moves a little bit more, it was pretty compelling. And I really did feel like this is the kind of like, it's kind of like a Ferrari, man. Like, like it's got a lot under the hood. And if you're, tough enough to drive it, like, it's going to deliver. And I was not tough enough, at least not at first. It took me quite a while to come to grips with it, especially the dodge. Like, it's mapped to L1, I believe. And I know why it's mapped there. Like, I don't like that it's mapped to L1, but you do need every button on the controller, and every button on the controller is there for a reason. And I was thinking about it, and honestly, I couldn't come up with a better way to do the controls. So even though I don't like L1 being the dodge, it makes sense that it's there. It needs to be there. And I eventually got better at it, but it was tough. It was tough to wrap my head around that being the dodge. So that was kind of a thing. But yeah, it does what it needs to do. It's able to do it under intense conditions, and it does not let you down, which I think is amazing. It's a really great job. I will say also there is a grind element to it, which makes perfect sense. I mean, you're score chasing, you're earning experience. There are a number of objectives that will show up on the side of the screen. It'll be like, do a combo of 500, I don't know, kill 100 enemies without taking damage, remove the armor from 8 armored enemies. You know, it's stuff like that, like little like in-game achievements. And when you do those, it either unlocks something or it gives you like a whole bunch of experience. It seemed to me every time I did one of those, I unlocked something, but I don't know if that's going to continue all the way through the game. You can also rack up experience points or cash points while you're playing and then spend those in the shop. If you play on the easier difficulties, they give you basically fuck all money. So you kind of have to find your legs pretty quickly and move up to at least the basic level of difficulty. And then you start to see the cash roll in a little bit more. I had like a pair of pistols, and then eventually I got a shotgun, I believe. You get a couple different pieces of armor. There's like 5 or 6 attributes you can change, like what type of sword you're using, what type of gun you have, what type of armor you have, etc., etc. So you can mix and match, but you got to earn that stuff. And so you really have to master the beginning stuff first, and then you can move on and customize. And you don't get it quickly either. It takes a while. I mean, I guess if you're a savant, then sure, you'll unlock that stuff a lot faster than I did. But it took me a pretty good amount of time before I unlocked like the next tier of stuff. But when I did, it did feel different. And I'm sure it would probably inform your gameplay style quite differently as well. So overall, I mean, this game it's a real motherfucker, man. Like, it really is. Like, it's tight, it's brutal, it's efficient, it's fast, it's all get out. I mean, it does what it needs to do. It's like, it's unforgiving. It's like this really polished, sharp piece of metal, you know, like it's not going to be your friend, but if you know how to use it, like it can do some pretty amazing things. So I have a lot of fucking respect for Kill Knight, honestly. I really liked it. I didn't think I was going to, but I really did. I'm still kind of chipping away at it, like 1 or 2 runs a day. I don't know that I'll ever unlock everything. I don't know that I'll even unlock the next few sets of levels, because I don't know if I got it in me these days, you guys, but man, I really like what it's doing. I got nothing but respect for it. So if anything I've said sounds even remotely interesting, you should absolutely check it out. I haven't played something like this in quite some time, and I think it's on point. It is fucking perfect. So Kill Knight is pretty fucking rad. So check that out, coming to you from Playside Studios. All right, we are getting through this stuff at a breakneck pace. This might be a fairly short episode. Final game of the show is Slime 3K Rise Against Despot, coming to us from Konfa Games, Konfa, and Tiny Build. And I am a pretty big fan of a lot of Tiny Build's output. Not everything, but like a lot of their stuff they put out, I think is pretty good. This is the most recent in a whole series of like Despot themed games. There's a bunch of them, at least 2 or 3 other ones. And it's like set in the same world where there's an AI controlling things, and then there are humans who are tiny little stick people, and then you're usually in underground dungeons doing roguelike runs in various ways. There's several of these Despot games, and I think they're all pretty fun. I think some of them are more difficult than others. I think Konfa, if I could just be really brutally honest for a moment, struggles with difficulty. I think they tend to go a little bit too hard most of the time, but I really like their art style. It's colorful, it's bright, a lot of pinks and greens. It's very, sarcastic type of humor. In fact, I would guess, and I'm going to check real quick. Hold on. Once again, through the magic of podcasting, I did look it up, and yes, they are based in St. Petersburg, Russia, which makes perfect sense. That is like absolutely the logic behind a lot of their theming and a lot of their content. So that does not surprise me at all. So this is the latest in their series, the Despot series, and this is a fun one. This is a game in the vein of Vampire Survivors. You play a slime, an actual slime, and you are in one of their famous dungeons, and you are, I don't know, doing something. I don't know exactly what you're doing. It doesn't matter. You're doing Vampire Survivors type action, and it is kind of what you expect, but it's also not what you expect. I think they've done some interesting things to the formula. 2D, pixel-based. You're maneuvering your slime around these battlefields. Enemies come streaming in, and all the enemies are characters from previous games. Sometimes you're the humans, sometimes you're not. In this particular game, you're not. And so some of the humans you might have used on your team in some of their earlier roguelikes, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's that guy with the refrigerator on his back, and oh yeah, the guy with the claws, I love that guy, but now he's your enemy because you are a slime, you're no longer human. So you start the game with a basic loadout, and one of the things that this game does differently is that you have I guess a deck. I don't know if I want to even call it a deck builder. It's just kind of like you select a bunch of abilities before the game starts. You have tiers of abilities starting with D. It goes D, C, B, A, and then S. And then each tier can have 3 abilities. And you'll unlock a bunch. They give you a bunch to start. And then as the game goes on, you will unlock. The more experience you get, the more you'll unlock. And so your repertoire of skills will grow, but you can only choose 3 for each tier. And so I don't even want to call it deck building, because it's not. Like, you're looking for synergies, right? Like, you're looking for which powers work the best for your playstyle, which powers work the best with the other powers, and kind of just going from there. So in the beginning, you just have these basic ass powers, and you'll have like a pea shooter. You'll have like a little, a drone guy that goes out to protect you. You'll have a little teeny tiny little force field, which is like 10,000 times worse than the garlic in Vampire Survivors, and that kind of a thing. And so you go out, kill some dudes, get experience, use your abilities. Now this thing does power-ups a little bit differently too. And I will fully admit, I don't know that I grasp all of the intricacies of the power-ups, because there is a passive system that gives you power based on which power-ups you're using. And I got that. But also, when you're leveling up your abilities, it seems like, if I'm not mistaken, that there are only 2 levels for each power, which is pretty different from basically every other Vampire Survivors like out there. So unless I'm missing something, you pick up, like, let's say a gun. And then when you get enough experience, you go to the item shop, you see what they have in the item shop, and you add those things to your repertoire as you're in the middle of the game. You pick up 2 more guns, and then you combine those 3 individual guns into 1 gun, and that becomes like a level 2 gun. As far as I can tell, that's it. I didn't seem like I could upgrade them anymore, and so that was kind of throwing me for a loop, because I'm like, it's got to upgrade more, because every one of these games upgrades more than that. But I don't think that it does. So that was an interesting twist. I kind of had to wrap my head around that. And it kind of makes sense as you get further in, because the way that they handle the power-ups is different too. So in Vampire Survivors, you get powers, and you can only have a certain number, but you just keep getting them until you get to like 8 or 10 or whatever it is. And then you just keep leveling up and leveling up and leveling up. And eventually you're just killing whole screens of guys all on your own, right? But in this one, you have a certain number of slots, and you start off the game with like the low tier slots, like the D tier slots. And so part of the strategy is earning more powers as you go, and then replacing the lower tier powers with higher tier powers, or at least different powers. So maybe you start the game with like your pea shooter and a drone, but that's not going to do it. The leveled up version of that is not strong enough to take you all the way to the end of the level where you need to kill a boss before you finish the level. So you need to like level those up as much as you can, and then when you get those things to level 2, it's time to start looking for like the C tier weapons. And then once you get those leveled up, you got to start looking for the B tier weapons. And so there's this like little power curve within each level where you are upgrading and exchanging powers that you have. And I haven't seen any other Vampire Survivors like do this before. So you're almost kind of like racing the power up tree to kind of get to the good stuff quick enough. And as you gain, resources for that by killing guys and visiting shops, you also have to upgrade the shop. So it's kind of a balancing act between spending money on powers that you need, finding better powers to replace the weaker powers that you have, and then also investing enough in the shop itself so that it gives you better powers and also at a higher frequency because it's randomly generated. You can easily pick up like a shotgun and you need the power-ups for the shotgun, and the store just doesn't give them to you. So you can either upgrade the shop to get better drops, or you can also re-roll the shop to get better selections. So it's kind of managing that resource. So there's a couple layers of very light resource management going on that you don't normally have to think about in a Vampire Survivors at all. So I thought that was pretty clever. And once I understood what was going on, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I'm not just accumulating. I am accumulating, but I'm also cycling weapons out. I'm trying to just like overall upgrade. Since you can only hold like 8 weapons, you need to like get rid of the lower tiers as quickly as you can and get to the higher tiers as quickly as you can, because that will improve your survivability. And it makes sense. Like, it all comes together, makes perfect sense. And so I will say, even though I just said that Confa usually errs on the side of difficulty, which I think is true, they have done a pretty good job so far of balancing what I've seen. I was able to I basically clear each level after 2 tries, which makes sense. Like the first time you get there, you're learning the level, you're getting to know what the opposition is like, and then you're also building up experience. And by the time I had built up the experience from my first failed run, by the second time I usually had enough experience and had different weapons and was able to get past the level on my next successive attempt. So I haven't really hit a stopping point at all. It's been, slow-ish progress, but it's sensible. I feel like I'm making strides. I unlock at least like one thing every time I play, which feels good. I think that's a good pace to unlock things at. And then there's lots of weapons to experiment with, like you can change boomerangs, you've got projectile weapons, you've got homing weapons, AoE weapons, and stuff like that. They're all kind of silly, just in line with how Confa games usually are. Everything is pretty irreverent, pretty sarcastic. They don't take themselves too seriously, which I think is great. So I think that Slime 3K is a pretty interesting one. If you're in the mood for a Vampire Survivors like, and you want one that does something a little bit different. I mean, Vampire Survivors is great. It broke this ground. I think it does it better than anyone else. It's hard to top the person who basically invented this style of gameplay, or at least refined it to the point that it captured everybody's attention. I'm sure there might have been games before this, but Vampire Survivors is the one that kind of made the mark, right? So let's give it props for that. This one is not exactly like that. It is definitely different. It has different systems. Your brain is kind of working in a different way. So even though on its surface it does look basically like the same kind of experience, there's enough here to make it feel substantially different. So you're not talking about it's a different genre. It's still definitely in the same Vampire Survivors genre, but you're not doing the same thing that you would be doing in Vampire Survivors. And it does feel like you've got to be a bit more strategic, trying to think about which weapons work together and then changing those out. You can change them. And sometimes it's about getting one weapon and hanging on to it long enough so you can upgrade it and then use that weapon to switch out a lower tier weapon. There's some stuff going on under the hood here. I appreciate that very much. So I had a pretty good time with Slime 3K, still playing it. I think it's pretty great because I was in the mood for a Vampire Survivors like, and this one is definitely scratching the itch. So thumbs up to Slime 3K, Rise Against Despot, coming to us from Confa Games and Tiny Build. All right, folks, that is the show. The game portion is officially done, but like many humans, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that do not have menus or life bars. That's right. It's time for the TV and movie roundup. Just movies this week. We watched Watchers. This is the movie coming from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I forget what her name is, but it's his daughter, her directorial debut. It's a horror movie, I guess, about people who are in a forest and they're inside this bunker that has a glass wall. And once you get in the forest, you can't escape and you're inside this bunker. And then at nighttime, these monsters come and watch them through the window. And then you got to kind of figure out what the fuck is going on. It's a pretty interesting premise. But like her father, I think that the premise is usually stronger than the payoff or the overall movie. Watchers was okay. But to be perfectly frank, it feels like maybe 2 or 3 movies worth of ideas crammed into one movie, and none of them really pay off. We didn't feel satisfied by the reveal. It felt silly and it just didn't make a lot of sense. I wish that they had done something different. Cut some of that stuff out. Maybe just reduced it to having one movie's worth of ideas and really polish those up. It was not great. I mean, I kind of see what they were going for, but it just didn't get there. So I guess a good first attempt. But I mean, and I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but it definitely feels like a Shyamalan family movie where it's got this amazing idea, but it just doesn't come together in the end. That happened a lot with her dad's movies, and it happened here again. However, I will say, we did rewatch The Sixth Sense, which is the movie that M. Night Shyamalan, her dad, made his name on. And I will say that one actually does still hold up. This is the movie starring Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis. Haley Joel is the kid who can see dead people. That's where the meme came from, where he's like, I see dead people. That's where this is from. And Bruce Willis is a child psychologist trying to help him cope with his issues. This is, I think, had one of the biggest twist endings In recent years, although this movie's like, what, 20 years old, 30 years old or something like that by now, because Haley Joel is like a grown-ass man. It's funny to see him as a small child when I know he's like this dude with a giant beard, and he's, he's doing these other roles. But anyway, like many movies that I've seen before, it wasn't as scary as I remember, but it is quite good. And I feel like this is one where the twist ending really paid off. It all came together, and it was really worth a watch. I mean, I think it definitely stands up as one of the classics. So if you've never seen The Sixth Sense, definitely go watch it. That's the one that made Shyamalan's career, and rightfully so, even though he may have had a couple of stumbles after that. We also watched Hancock, which is a superhero movie starring Will Smith. I've known about it forever, never bothered to watch it because the reviews on it were pretty bad. But I was talking to a friend, and the friend said it was like their favorite movie. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, if, many times, a movie will get a bad rap, or maybe I'll find something about a movie that other people didn't see, or, sometimes I can enjoy a movie that other people didn't like just for whatever reason. That was not the case here, though. Hancock is a terrible movie. It is absolutely terrible. Will Smith is like basically Superman, but he's drunk and fucks things up all the time, and he just has a really bad attitude, and you don't really understand why. And then Charlize Theron is co-starring in the movie, and then I'm not going to give away anything, but basically just like they don't really fully establish his character motives. They don't have a good story. When you get to the reveal, it's like, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense. It's just really dumb. The dramatic arc they take him on doesn't feel earned. The action sequence at the end that's supposed to be like, the peak of the action, the most exciting moments didn't make any sense. They were really stupid, and it was just a really, really, really bad movie. Man, it was just a really bad movie. So less said about that, the better. Speaking of bad movies, we were wanting to watch something really scary the other day. And so I had 1,000,001 people recommend Hereditary to me from Ari Aster and A24 Films. And this is the movie that makes me say, we're not watching any more A24 films. I'm so sick of A24 films. And also, anybody who thought Hereditary was a good movie, I really would challenge you on that, because my wife and I were bored, and we thought it was dumb, and like the twist didn't really feel earned. It didn't really make a lot of sense. It wasn't satisfying. I mean, honestly, okay, so let me give credit where credit is due, because Toni Collette is in this movie. She does a fucking amazing performance. She is like the best actress. I mean, she kills it in this movie. So all props to Toni Collette. She's just like a fucking force, dude. Her facial expressions, her pauses, her delivery is just, oh man, she's the best in like anything that she's in. Toni Collette is the best. That said, this script was just dumb trash. It was so stupid. Real basic, like Satan shit going on. It was really long. And if you had, I mean, honestly, it sounds weird to say, but like Hereditary would have been a better movie if you had taken all of the horror elements out, taken the Satan stuff out, taken the spooky stuff out, and just had Toni Collette and the rest of the actors really displaying the dynamics of a disintegrating family. It would have been sad as fuck. And in fact, this movie just made us sad. It was like this family, they weren't getting along. They had a lot of mental illness in the family. Husband and wife weren't getting along. Mom and the kids weren't getting along. And it was like so real. Like the performances were so good. You just really felt for this family. And that was way more compelling than like the other dumb shit they brought in at the end. And it was just like, what? You guys, what movie were you making? It drove me crazy that people said this was a scary movie, or that it was really, I mean, I thought it was trash. I thought it was really bad. Very pretentious, overlong, not a great script, not scary. I mean, there's like two frightening moments in this movie, and I want to say a moment of being like 5 seconds or something like that. But the script overall, not scary, not a great movie, not a good scare. It's boring, and I was kind of mad, dude, because like we were like saving Hereditary up for a morning when we really wanted to get our spooky on, and we were just like so bored by the end of it. It was just terrible. Anyway, great family drama, terrible horror movie. Hereditary does not live up to the reputation at all. Last movie we watched this week was Tales from the Hood. This was a horror anthology from, it's got to be 95, I believe. It was put together by Rusty Cundiff and Spike Lee, who are two very prominent black filmmakers. And as you might guess, this was kind of set in the whole Boys in the Hood era, where there was a lot of drugs, a lot of crime, a lot of gangs going on in the black community here in America, specifically like on the West Coast, especially. And this is kind of what that was about. The framing piece of the tale is that these three gangbangers need to get a score of stolen drugs that's being held by an undertaker. So they go into his mortuary and hold him up, and they want him to give the drugs over so they can go sell it. But before he gives the drugs over, he tells them each a story about the bodies that are inside his mortuary. I think there's a total of 4 stories. And it's from the 90s, so you have to like take it in that context, right? Like the clothing, the dialogue, the attitude, the style, it's all very, very mid-90s. So just brace yourself for that. But this movie is about black people, made for black people, by black people, and it shows. And the thing that was really compelling about it, or I guess compelling, the thing that was really striking about this was, yeah, it was a horror movie and that was fine, but it wasn't really that scary, and the horror was just like whatever. But the powerful thing was just like the social commentary. It was really powerful, because if you're old enough to remember what was going on in America in the 90s and how that happened and what it looked like and what people were living through, like, this is absolutely on point. It was talking about black on black gang violence. It was talking about cops on black violence. It was talking about the strife within black families at that time. It was talking about, I mean, all these kind of issues that were happening and, you know, are still happening. And it's sad because it was really easy to pick up on what they were talking about. It was all laid out. It was not hidden in any way. So it was pretty clear to see what they were saying. But at the same time, that movie was made in the 90s, and we are now, it's almost 30 years later. We haven't improved anything. Like, none of it is better. I mean, maybe like slightly less gang violence perhaps, but like a lot of the issues raised in this film are still here and are still present. And it was just really disheartening and sad to see that the things that they were mad about and complaining about and begging people to listen to in this film are still here. There's still a problem. There's still issues. We have made so little progress on that. And I'm not speaking as a black person at all. I'm clearly not a black person, but just knowing what was going on, living through that, and seeing what we're still facing today as people, as this country, politically, in terms of the cops, in terms of social justice. Oh man, it was just terrible to see how little we've made, how little strides we've made. So yeah, it was it was like whatever. It was like a whatever horror movie, but it was actually really powerful, very powerful social commentary. And I would recommend that film for that purpose, not for the scares or anything, but just as a lens through which to see humanity and how little we have advanced. So that was a bummer, dude. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music kicks in, I would love for you all to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend So Video Games to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. Also, if you want to support this show and help with the cost of running the podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Video Games podcast. And if you want to join our Discord, that is free of charge. As always, I also want to get your questions and comments. Hit me up in the So Video Games Discord or email me directly. I love email. SoVideoGamesPodcast@gmail.com. Or you can reach me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. It's my name. BRADGALLAWAY. All A's, no O's. And this is going to do it for episode 414. Thank you again so much for joining me here on the So Video Games podcast. And I'll see you next week.